Yo, boom. Yo, let me send a cuss right today, boy. We finna watch the sickening case of a friendly neighbor. I think this is the BTK killer, cause it looks like him. But hey, I'm not finna do too much talking. Let's get to this.
A loving husband, a friendly neighbor, and a devoted churchgoer. That is exactly how Dennis Rader's family and friends would have described him before finding out the terrifying truth.
It is him. It is.
Welcome back to Twisted Minds. My name is James, and today we look into the case of Dennis Rader,
BTK
also
killer.
known as the BTK killer. We have covered a number of stomach-churning killers during our time on YouTube, and Dennis Rader is up there with the worst. I don't want to give you any spoilers to what you will learn about in this video, but the nickname BTK Killer originates from his self-proclaimed MO: bind, torture, and kill.
Yeah. Now, I've heard about this guy. I don't know about him, but I don't know, like, I just know he got like a couple bodies.
Dennis
I don't
Rader
know.
was born.
I don't know the full extent. You feel me? I just know BTK and what it stands for. I don't know what he did.
Born on March 9th, 1945, and was the oldest of 4 brothers. Growing up in Wichita, Kansas, Rader had a very average childhood, although he did admit that he'd strangled cats and dogs just for fun whilst being very young. As a teenager, he became
Just for fun.
obsessed with local girls and began spying on them through bedroom windows. Rader even stole women's underwear off washing lines or wherever else he could get them. At the age of 21, Rader joined the U.S. Air Force, where he spent the next 4 years working as a mechanic, including long periods being stationed overseas. When he returned to Wichita, he married Paula Diaz, with whom he had 2 children with, a boy named Brian and a girl called Carrie. To take care of his family during the early 70s, Rader took a job on an assembly line at the Coleman Company in Wichita. Although this may sound like an average white picket fence American life, things were about to take a gruesome turn when Rader met another employee at Coleman, a 33-year-old mother of 5 named Julie Otero.
Oh, damn.
Rader became obsessed with Julie Otero and began stalking her and would even spy on her family.
This nigga's a weirdo, bro. I'm still thinking about that. He would take random shorties' underwear on the clothesline. Like, it would be one thing if it was a shorty he was fucking with, right? You at her crib, and then you take it, and she don't know. That's one thing. It's still weird, but it's one thing, bro. But you taking random people's shit? Actually, nah, I was gonna say, what if, like, he could be taking random people's shit? Like, what if it's like a granny, like an 80-year-old, and you got her shits, you sniffing them shits. You tell me you tell me that shit's hitting? An 80-year-old, that shit's hitting? But hey, this nigga's a weirdo, so he probably knew whose it was, cause this nigga was probably stalking them for weeks, and then went up. It's just weird, bro.
If that
This is
wasn't
weird.
sick enough, Rader became infatuated with Otero's 11-year-old daughter,
brother.
Josephine. After weeks of quietly watching, his urge to get closer to the family got too much, and on the morning of January 15th, 1974, he forced his way inside their family home. Upon entering, he was surprised to see Julie's husband, Joseph, and their 9-year-old son, Joseph Jr., were also home. Rader, who had armed himself with a gun, held the family at gunpoint and proceeded to tie them up and strangle them to death, one by one. After killing Julie,
And they didn't do nothing? I'm assuming he started off with the dad, because you have to go for the strongest person. But even then, the wife ain't do nothing. Like, the kids, okay, you expect them, okay. They're not gonna do nothing, okay. Obviously, some of them, they are, but I don't expect them to really do nothing. You feel me? They kids. But the wife, bro, you tell me she watching you getting strangled, bro. That's not loyal, bro. That's not a loyal shorty, bro. That's not loyal, bro.
and
I'm sorry.
Joseph, Rader strangled their son. Finally, he took Josephine down to the basement of the house and pulled down her pants and underwear before hanging her. After the poor girl took her last breath, the monster pleasured himself before leaving the scene with Joseph's wristwatch and a radio. 2.5 months later, the man everyone considered Mr. Nice Guy felt the urge to act upon his twisted lust once again. This time his target was Catherine Bright, a 21-year-old who also worked at the Coleman plant. According to a later confession, Rader used to watch the girl going into her house and one day decided that she would become one of his projects, or PJs, as he liked to call them. On April 4th, 1974, Rader broke into Catherine's home while she was out and calmly waited for her to return. She did eventually come home, but once again, to the surprise of Rader, the woman wasn't alone, returning with her brother Kevin. While holding a gun at the pair, the killer got the two victims to tie each other up. Not the type of people who would go down without a fight. The siblings tried to fight back, but Kevin was shot in the process. Miraculously, the scuffle allowed Kevin to escape and survive the ordeal. Catherine, however, wasn't so lucky and was stabbed 11 times in the torso and back while trying with all her might to fight back against this creep. Although detectives later described the woman as fighting like a hellcat, she lost her life that night. In October 1974, Don Granger, who worked at the Wichita Eagle newspaper, received a strange phone call telling him there was a letter hidden inside a mechanical engineering textbook at the Wichita Public Library that he would be interested in. On investigation, the poorly written note was discovered, which described the Arturo killings in great detail. Rader wrote, "When this monster enter my brain, I will never know, but it's here to stay." Also writing, "The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK. You see, he at it again. They will be on the next victim."
And the crazy part is, bro, it's always the nice guys. It's not always the nice guys, but, bro, like I said, bro, in a couple reactions before, bro, we was reacting to the lesser known coats that people ain't know. When people get power, bro, when they in that position, and he's in a position, he's known as the nice guy. He's probably the guy that the neighbor brings him food. You feel me? He could pass by. He got that type of power, and that's certain people gonna abuse that. It's really crazy, bro. You gotta watch who's in your circle, bro. Like, niggas would expect a gang member to be doing this shit. No, it's a nigga in the suburbs. Nigga, you wouldn't expect. And that's also why I was in the forensic science class and shit, bro. And they was also telling me, bro, that, like, cops and shit, like, if you known as the nice guy, if you known as the nice guy, bro, you feel me? They gonna look into you a little bit more. You feel me? Like, if you just go in there being an asshole and shit, obviously still stay in the case that you're innocent and shit, but if you go in there being an asshole, like, what y'all got me in here for, bro? I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be in another place right now. Like, they'll look at him and be like, all right, bro. But if you got a guy that's willing, like, oh, where do you want me to go? I'll help you. I'll go. I'll show you everything. Like, those are the type of people you want to be careful for, bro. Those are the type of people.
He eventually signed the note off with, "Yours."
Also, if you lose some bread, if you lose something, and a nigga is offering you to help you, unless that's your man's, closest man's, 9 times out of 10, the people that's helping you find it is the nigga that took it. I'm not gonna lie.
Guiltily. The newspaper gave the letter to the Wichita Police Department, who kept it secret for months, as to not scare the public or give the writer the satisfaction. Kathy Hankel, a reporter for the rival Wichita Sun newspaper, later received a copy of the letter from an unnamed source and decided to make it public, writing an article stating that there was a serial killer on the loose. In a streak of irony, at the same time the public were all fearing that a serial killer was nearby, Rader had landed himself a job installing alarm systems with the ADT security service. To make things worse, the only reason Rader got a job in the first place was because people were panicking that there was a killer breaking into houses and that they wanted to be protected. For several years, Rader went silent, somehow managing to suppress his urges. That was until 1977, when he struck twice. On March 17, 1977, he broke into the home of Shirley Vian. He overpowered her, tied her up, put a plastic bag over her head, and then strangled her to death with a rope. Her 3 young children were at home at the time, and out of sheer terror, had locked themselves in the bathroom.
Damn.
Rader later admitted that he wanted to kill them next, but after Vian's phone began ringing, he got scared and left the house. Just think about how traumatizing this event would have been for those poor children.
Yeah.
On December 8, 1977, the BTK killer broke into the apartment of 25-year-old Nancy Fox. He cut her phone lines, made sure she wasn't home, and waited for her to return from work. After confronting her, he handcuffed her and strangled her with a belt. Once he knew she was dead, he once again pleasured himself before stealing Nancy's driver's license as a sick memento. After the infamy he had gotten...
So he's even weirder. He does it when the shorties are already dead. He's even weirder, bro. He's a necrophiliac or some shit like that.
From the
He's
note
weirdo.
published in the newspaper,
Super weird.
Rader began enjoying the brazen admission of his crimes, even ringing the police to report the murder from a payphone. In February 1978, he sent a 2-page letter to the Kate TV, sharing the gruesome details of the Shirley Vian and Nancy Fox murders. After this, Dennis Rader wouldn't kill again for 7 long years. During that time, he kept himself busy, earning a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Wichita State University. Yep.
He studied the law. Nah, bro, that's crazy. But it's not surprising, though, bro, because when I was in that forensic science class, bro, that shit, if a nigga really wanted, bro, that shit teaches you everything you need to know on how to get away with shit. It's actually crazy to think. You could be a teacher teaching a student, and you're just helping him with his tactics and shit. Cause you know in that law class he learned a bunch of stuff, bro. There's a reason he didn't get caught for it. He didn't get caught for a bit. There's a reason, bro. Not just because he's a nice guy. Also because if he was breaking in niggas' cribs, bro, somebody was going to see it, bro. He needed to know the specific time. He needed to know the specifics. So he's not. This is crazy.
This sick serial killer studied law and got a degree. During this time, Rader became an active member of Wichita's Christ Lutheran Church.
Of course.
And even became president of the congregation's council. Carrie Rawson, Rader's daughter, described him as a great father, even finding time to be a scout leader at his son's Boy Scout group. At this point in his life, he was respected by his friends, neighbors, and family. But something was missing. Something that he just couldn't shake. The need to kill. Only this time, his apple pie church-going life and his perverted urges were about to clash in the most disturbing way.
Let me guess. He's gonna do something in the church.
Dennis Rader restarted his evil ways on April 27th, 1985, when he began obsessing over an older woman, Maureen Hedge, who lived on the same street as the Rader family. In his usual style, he broke into Maureen's home and hid until she returned home with her boyfriend. This time, however, he waited for the boyfriend to leave and for Maureen to get tucked up into bed before he lunged from the darkness and strangled her to death with his bare hands. Unsatisfied with just taking the life of the woman, he then carried her naked body to the Christ Lutheran Church.
Nobody saw?
Where he posed her in a number of...
Nobody saw? You carried... Alright. I'm guessing he put it in his car. But still, if you're doing this in the suburbs, I know they got neighborhood watch. I know they do.
Bondage positions around the church and took photographs. Absolutely horrifying. After he was done, he dug a shallow ditch and rolled the body inside of it before burying the body. They say that old dogs can't learn new tricks, but in September 1986, Rader changed up his whole methodology and dressed up as a telephone repairman to knock on the door of his next victim, Vicky Wegerle. As soon as she let him into the home, he aimed his gun at her. With Vicky's 2-year-old son also in the house, the woman fought back when Rader tried to tie her up. Sadly, the monster overpowered her and managed to choke her with a pair of nylon stockings. He then took photographs of her body before driving away with her car. As he did drive away, Bill Wegerle, Vicky's husband, was returning home on the opposite side of the road and locked eyes with the stranger driving his wife's car.
Crazy.
However, this wouldn't save the 10th and final victim of the BTK killer, who was 62-year-old Dolores E. Davis. Rader was actually on a Boy Scout camping trip on January 19th, 1991, when he realized he had forgotten something at home. En route to his home, however, this vile killer took a detour and broke into the elderly woman's home by throwing a concrete block through the window. He tied her up and strangled her to death with a pair of pantyhose before hiding the body under a bridge and returning to the campsite like nothing had happened. Whether he felt like his luck would run out or that he was getting too old to keep killing, Rader decided that his killing spree must come to an end. By 2004, the investigation of the BTK killer had gone ice cold. That is when Rader foolishly tried to send a letter to the police, taking responsibility for a killing that hadn't been previously linked to him. This ignited interest in the case once again, and
of
led
course,
the police to taking DNA
of
tests from hundreds of men in an attempt to track down the BTK killer. In fact, despite 1,100 DNA samples being taken overall, they failed to identify Dennis Rader. Rader eventually sent the police a message on a floppy disk, who quickly checked the metadata.
Oh my god, bro. Like, bro. If you gonna take credit for something, my nigga, at least do it when you're about to die, bro. Like, he probably still thought he could get away, bro. It's not like back in the day, bro. Niggas nowadays got DNA. You thought shit was still sweet? You thought it was still sweet?
Data of the Microsoft Word document. In this data, they found that the document had been made by a man who called himself Dennis. They also found mention of the Lutheran Church. From that moment, it was down to a simple Google search of Lutheran Church, Wichita, Dennis, which gave the result of a man named Dennis Rader, the president of the Congregation's Council. At this point, the police already knew that the BTK killer drove a black Jeep Cherokee, the very same type of car parked outside the house of Dennis Rader. Now, you may think that that's the end of our story, but things weren't that simple. Even though the police suspected Rader, they only had strong circumstantial evidence and needed more direct evidence to lock him up. The way they solved this was by controversially obtaining a warrant to test the DNA of a pap smear from Rader's daughter. that had been taken at the University of Kansas's medical clinic when she was a student there. The
Mm.
DNA of the pap smear was a near match to the DNA found under one of the victim's fingernails. This was finally the evidence they needed to arrest a serial killer who had evaded the law for 30 long years.
And to think he could have gotten away with it all if he just wasn't a dumbass. That's crazy, bro. People, there's probably hundreds, not hundreds, I know there's thousands of people like him. Back in the day, that used to do shit like him. And they would just, you feel me, they just stopped. That's crazy, bro. Like, imagine your grandpa, bro. You talking to your grandpa, and that nigga got bodies. And not normal bodies. Weirdo. Like, he was doing weirdo shit. Like this dude.
After being questioned, Dennis confessed to being the BTK killer, sharing every gruesome detail of the killings. He even gave detectives the locations of his hidey holes, where he stashed his mementos. Among the things found were photographs of Raider dressed up in the clothing of his victims, posing in bondage positions. Investigators believe that he did this to relive the ecstasy of the murders and to put himself in the mindset of his victims. On June 27, 2005, Dennis Rader pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder and received the maximum sentence of 10 consecutive life terms. He is currently locked up at the maximum security El Dorado Correctional Facility near Wichita, where he is being held in solitary confinement for his own safety. The man who thought it was his right to enter any home he pleased, to take the lives of innocent people, is now only allowed out of his 80-square-foot cell for 1 hour, 5 times a week. It makes me wonder if Rader would have gotten away with brutally killing his 10 victims if he didn't feel the need to satisfy his own ego by sending letters and hints of his crimes. It is likely he would have carried on being the good husband, the good father,
Yup.
the devoted churchgoer,
Yup.
but above all that, at the very core of his being, he would have continued to be the embodiment of evil,
Yup.
prepared to scratch that perverted itch at any given moment. Thanks for tuning in to Twisted
Hey,
Minds.
that's something, bro. Even if you subscribe to the channel, leave a like. And this shit shows, bro, you can't trust nobody, bro. Weirdos are around us 24/7. Your neighbor. I'm not gonna lie, bro. There's probably at least one person on your block, if not on your block, on the block next to you, that is into weird shit like this. I'm not gonna lie. There's the world got 8 billion people, bro. Shit crazy, bro. But today has just been a whole day of witnessing self-snitching. The most dumbest people. It's just the most weirdest niggas. Like, I read this 4 vids of self-snitching. Nice. But hey, don't snitch on yourself. If you go do some shit, bro, at least don't let it be no weirder shit. And don't self-snitch. Biggest thing, don't self-snitch. This is literally self-snitching 101. But hey, that's the video. I'm gonna catch y'all next one, man. Stay safe.